I think that a lot of the inward-facing attacks from one section to the other that we're seeing is not only it's not good for the Democratic Party, it's not good for the country. You know, all of these different labels and boxes, whether they are within the Democratic Party or outside of it, further divide us.
What do you make of the general state of where the Democrats are right now, where it seems to me that that Biden doesn't really want to run? That's just my feeling, is that he didn't run when he, after Obama left, and that they sort of brought him in because I think whoever the powers that be are, they kind of think, well, the progressives are really taking over, and if there's any last chance for a more centrist Democratic Party, we've got to throw it to this guy. Do you see that split in the party, that there's sort of like this ever diminishing, more old school Democrat or liberal versus the Democratic socialists or something like that?
No, I wouldn't say that as it relates to Biden. I don't doubt that he wants to do this. It's something that he's done 3 times before. I don't know if this is his third or fourth time running.
Yeah, this is at least his third time, for sure. Yeah.
So I don't doubt his intentions. I think there's a bigger question here about all of the different factions that exist within the Democratic Party. And I think that a lot of the inward-facing attacks from one section to the other that we're seeing is not only, it's not good for the Democratic Party, it's not good for the country. You know, all of these different labels and boxes, whether they are within the Democratic Party or outside of it, further divide us.
Yeah.
They further tell us, and this is one of the challenges that people in Washington have had with me from the very beginning, is I don't fit cleanly in any one of those categories or those labels, and they're scratching their head like, well, we can't figure her out.
Right.
Which is incredible because
that's how most
it's
of
very
us are.
simple. It's how most of us are. We look at things, look at issues like, does this make sense or does it not make sense? But for me, I'm motivated not by an interest to serve my party or to get somewhere politically, but I really actually want to serve my country. I really want to serve the people of this country. I'm going to do my best to do that, and that's the lens through which I view these different issues. Does this action or policy, in my view, best help people? Does it best help solve a problem? Or is it something that's going to be harmful or cause further stress or struggle or pain and suffering?
I'm trying to remember, in that first debate, did you speak Spanish?
I did not.
You did not?
No.
So that to me was sort of like the perfect example of, I think you know this about me, identity politics to me, I truly believe that it is the most dangerous force in American politics today, because it is what will turn us, it's the reverse of what the American dream was founded on, that we would look at each other by skin color and gender and sexuality and all of those things.
I agree with that.
And watching the other candidates do it, and if you had done it too, I would still be saying the same thing. It struck me as the worst sort of pandering of like, do these people not speak English? And if they don't speak English, perhaps we should speak English so that they learn English, so they can be more assimilated and integrated, and all of those things. And yet identity politics seems to have completely taken over.
Yeah, there was a woman, we did a 4th of July parade, a bunch of them actually in New Hampshire. It was right after that first set of debates, and it made an impact on me. There was a woman who was sitting with her family and friends at the end of one of the parades, so we stopped and we said hi, and she was from Central America, and she made it a point to pull me aside, and she put her hands on my arm. She was very serious, and she said, whatever you do in a future debate, don't speak Spanish. She found that to be so patronizing and blatantly so. And I think that the identity politics that are being used, again, to further divide us, to further drive separations between us, and purely for selfish political gain, is a real danger. I agree with you. It undermines that unity that we have. That doesn't come with groupthink or saying, well, hey, we're all exactly the same, we think the same way. Not at all.
Yeah.
It's that unity that we have in recognizing our diversity and our strength in who we are as Americans, and the principles and freedoms that make up the bedrock of our country.
So it's interesting that that's how you ended that, because when I was tweeting out that you were coming on, I retweeted one of your last tweets, which was like a 30-second clip where you talked about freedom and liberty and things like that. I love all those words. But those words now have been really associated with the right and not with Democrats. Do you find it odd that, I mean, right in there's a giant American flag in my control room and all of those things, and I've got the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence in there. Like, do you find it odd that it seems that the Democrats aren't embracing those things? There's a weird running from them.
I'm disheartened by it because of all of those who have sacrificed for our freedoms. Just yesterday morning, I went back and read Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address again. That short, I think it was less than 2 minutes, where he very powerfully laid out how best we can honor those who gave their lives on that battlefield to birth a new nation based on those principles of freedom and liberty and equality, and that we have a government that is truly of, by, and for the people. And that's where, as some folks in the media and others are saying, oh, well, Tulsi, you didn't make it the debate. Obviously, you're going to drop out of the race. I'm not quitting. I'm not dropping out of this race, because it is that same inspiration that Abraham Lincoln spoke of how we best honor those who sacrificed all. My brothers and sisters in uniform who didn't come home with us from Iraq. That inspires me and motivates me to continue forward in this campaign, because when it comes right down to it, it is the people in this country who have the power to decide the election and who have the power to make the kind of change I believe we need to see.
All right, so on the libertarian side, they love you on the war stuff, right? One of the things I was getting a lot of tweets today, well, you got to ask her about guns. You got to ask her about guns, because the general feeling, they want their guns, basically. So can you just sort of lay out your position?
Yeah, I think that I stand up for Second Amendment rights. I don't think it conflicts with the need. I feel we also need to have sensible gun safety regulation. I think that the fact that we have not seen any kind of legislation pass for a very long time is because on one side you have people who say there should be absolutely no regulation whatsoever on guns and who can own them. And on the other side, you have folks who are saying that they want to repeal the Second Amendment and they want to get rid of guns completely and take everyone's guns away. And you have those two extremes on both sides kind of pointing their arrows at each other with no real substantive dialogue and conversation happening with that entire space in the middle where we recognize that there's no conflict between upholding our Second Amendment rights while also making sure that these guns are not put into the hands of those who would seek to do incredible harm to other people.
So what would be a sensible law that isn't passed already? Because that it always seems to come down to that.
Well,
they'll say we need background checks.
Yeah. I mean, that's one that that we just passed with some bipartisan support from the House. It's sitting in the Senate now, waiting for movement. I mean,
and what would it do? It would strengthen background checks, or extend them.
Yes, and that's where I think that was recently pointed out, the shooter in El Paso, that if that law had already been enacted, that it was likely that would have prevented him from being able to purchase the guns that he bought.
What would you say to the people that would say, well, no matter how many laws you put in place, it's the bad guys aren't the ones that follow the laws, and that we already have so many guns out there that, you can pass whatever you want, you can say whatever you want, but actually bad guys don't follow laws, and these things are just going to keep happening.
Well, I think there's a few elements to this. There is some of these cases in these mass shootings where they are going and purchasing guns, whether it's from a dealer or a gun show or whatever it is. These are not people who are going and, buying a gun from the trunk of a car. So there's the issue of how we can improve or strengthen our laws to make sure that those loopholes are closed. But you're right, there is a problem with the guns and the kinds of shootings that are happening every single day in cities like Chicago. Families
So is
who
that
are
the weird
impacted.
thing, though? Because Chicago has some of the strictest gun laws.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And we've got to recognize that. I think that's unfortunate sometimes that those who are calling for gun safety reforms often turn a blind eye to the reality of what's happening to families every day in cities like that, where kids are being shot on their way to school. There's incredible violence that's happening in some of these inner cities that we as a country have to recognize. This is a deeper this is a deeper challenge that we have as a country that goes beyond passage of legislation. That is one piece of it, but it is not the only thing that's going to help make sure that we're protecting our kids and that we're protecting our loved ones.
When you hear things like the city of San Francisco designating the NRA a terrorist organization, do you think that's helping or hurting?
I don't think. I think that further deepens the divide. You know, I don't support the tactics that the NRA uses at all. I think that they are part of the problem, not part of the solution. I think that what we need as a country is for more dialogue to happen between people who feel like they sit on opposing sides of this camp, because if they actually just talk to each other, I think most sensible folks would be able to come together and say, you know, when it comes right down to it, I think our goals and objectives are probably closer together than we realize.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, check out our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.